Good morning. Did you hear about this horrible tragedy that occurred in upstate New York last week? A family, a mother, a father, 6 children. She's pregnant with their seventh child, 32 years old. They go to a 7-Eleven, and there is a man outside where he was supposed to be outside smoking a cigarette. And this father of 6 got all in this guy's face. You're smoking in front of my children. Stop smoking in front of my children. Well, the smoker got in his car and barreled toward the family. He ran into their car. And the pregnant wife jumped in front of the car to protect her children who were in the car. And she's dead. And this is a tragedy. Don't put your thumbs up and start typing and attacking me, saying, I think this smoker did the right thing. He's a lunatic. He's a lunatic. But here's the problem. The father of these 6 children, the husband of this now deceased young innocent woman, had the balls to get into a complete stranger's face over something so ridiculous because this smoker was not breaking the law. He was outside where non-smokers want smokers, outside in an area where it was legal to smoke a cigarette, and this father of 6 got in this guy's face. A perfect stranger. He didn't know anything about this guy. And I will say this, and I might get in trouble for this, and that's fine, but I will say it's funny how the father had all these balls to get into a stranger's face about smoking a cigarette. What, it takes 5 minutes to smoke a cigarette? His children were watching, que horrible. But when that guy got in his car and started barreling toward the family car, it was the pregnant wife who put her body in front of that car, not the husband, who had this big mouth and all this bravado to tell a perfect stranger not to smoke where his children could see him. So you know what? This smoker was causing no harm to these children. All the father had to do was, he could have said something snarky. Kids, that man is an evil, horrible person. We don't smoke in our family. Don't you ever smoke. He's going to die. He could have done that. He didn't have to get in this guy's face, this stranger's face, because here's the problem. That's why the show today is called Anger Management. People are angry. And a lot of people are angry when a perfect stranger gets in our face and thinks they have the right to tell us what to do because what we're doing bothers them. We're not doing anything illegal, but because it bothers them or their children are watching, we're supposed to let them be the boss of us and tell us what to do. It's happened to me. I've had this experience, and it makes you furious when it happens to you. Okay? I talked about this in a previous show 2 years ago. I was at the Pavilion at the Bay at a party. Now, everybody smokes down there. There are signs. No smoking in this area. No alcohol in this area. And everybody brings their coolers full of booze and beer and wine coolers and bottles of wine. Everybody drinks. They ignore the no alcohol sign. And a lot of people smoke. And on this particular day, I was not the only person smoking at this open air pavilion. Okay, it's not closed in, it's open. It's on the beach. But for some reason on this particular day, even though there were other people smoking, as I was, this person, I do not know their name. They obviously know who I am. Most people at the Bay do know who I am. And a lot of them don't like me, and that's fine. You don't have to like me. But I will tell you what you're not going to do. I'm not going to live by different rules than everybody else because you don't like me. This guy gets in my face and says, you need to put that cigarette out. There's a sign there. And my children are, and I mean, his kids had their back to me. They were up where the band was performing. They didn't even know I was smoking a cigarette. And I looked at the guy and I said, you know what? I'm not going to start a fight, but my heart was racing. I said, you know what? I'll step off the pavilion. I stepped off the concrete onto the beach where you are allowed to smoke. Okay? And I finished my cigarette. I thought that was the end of it. Until that following week, during the week, I'm minding my own business in my trailer, and a security guy comes to my door and says, you shouldn't be smoking at the pavilion. There's a sign. So this asshole gets in my face, and only my face, not the other people who were smoking around me, and tells me to put my cigarette out. I move. I actually do what he asked me to do. I moved. And he still went up to the office and reported me. Sounds personal, doesn't it? Even though I don't know the dude's name. Don't know him. He had a bone to pick with Paula Luciano, and he thought that was the way to do it. Well, big mistake, huge, because I said to the security guard, okay, so I'm going to call my lawyer now, because there's also a no alcohol sign at the pavilion. See, I don't have to get in a car and hit people or commit violence, but I know my rights. So I'm like, there were also about 20 other people smoking inside the pavilion on that same day. Are you going to go visit their houses too? And, let them know they can't smoke at the pavilion anymore? Because that's not going to fly. They're going to be upset about that. And I said, by the way, I think my lawyer's going to tell me that since there's a no alcohol sign at the pavilion as well, that now I can just basically start writing down trailer numbers, and you'll have to be very busy after a party at the pavilion because you're going to have to go to everybody's house and tell them they can't drink at the pavilion anymore. If you're going to enforce one of those signs, you have to enforce both of them. And you know what? That was 2 years ago. Last year, people were smoking at the pavilion and drinking at the pavilion, and there were no issues. That's the way you handle this situation. You don't commit violence. You don't get in someone's face. You don't start a fist fight. You deal with it logically. But this is the problem that is happening in our society today, especially among non-smokers and smokers. The CHIP program is a healthcare program for children whose mommies and daddies don't make enough money to provide them with quality, affordable healthcare. Smoking taxes, people who smoke, and we pay taxes. Every time we buy cigarettes, our taxes go to support the CHIP program. And yet we're not allowed to light a cigarette within 700 miles of a child. We are supposed to pay taxes, the most taxed product in American history. And they use our money, they'll take our money, but we better disappear if their children can see us. If your children think I'm cool, whether I'm smoking or not smoking, it's not my problem. That's your problem. You tell them I'm the Wicked Witch of the West, that I'm killing myself and killing others. Tell them whatever you want. But I'm not going to change my behavior when my behavior is legal to make your children more comfortable. Just get your children out of my face. See, that's the problem too. Have any of you ever been back in the day? Remember the day when there were smoking and non-smoking sections in restaurants and never the two should meet? But they did meet. And you know why they met? Because again, people walk into a restaurant, it's packed, they ask for a table. Do you want non-smoking or smoking? First available. Because they don't want to wait for a non-smoking table. So they end up in the smoking section. And all night long, all they do is bitch. Remember those days? Oh, the fake cough. oh, I can't breathe. I'm having an asthma attack. Let me get my inhaler. I'm in my section. I'm in the smoking section. You came into my section. Now, I also don't like waiting for a table. And I also used to say first available. And if I ended up in the non-smoking section, I didn't light a cigarette in that section. And I didn't complain. Oh my God, I really could use a cigarette. No, I got up. I went over to the bar, which usually the bar was smoking. I took my drink. I had a cigarette. I came back to the table. I didn't interfere with the non-smoking section. But when I'm sitting in the smoking section and non-smokers, people who hate smoking, choose to sit next to me, well, what the hell do you expect? It's the smoking section. People say, oh my God, I'm at the beach. We want to ban smoking at the beach because I sit next to a smoker on the beach with my children. Guess what, bitch? I was in my place first. And people know me. They know I smoke. I smoke 1 cigarette an hour. If you choose to put your blankets and your chairs and your little umbrella over your infant next to me, knowing that I smoke, that's not my problem, is it? Because there's a whole beach. There's a whole beach. You choose to sit next to a smoker, that's not the smoker's problem. Anger management. You know, even the children are angry these days. A couple years ago, my neighbor at the bay was very ill, and she wasn't at her trailer. And I saw some children on her porch, her private property. And I knew she would not like that. I had known her for 10 years. And I knew she did not want other people on her property. And I said to these children, that's not your property. She won't like that. She's very sick and she wouldn't like you on her property. Those children looked at me and were like, who the hell do you think you are? You're not my mom. Fuck you. That's how children talk to adults today. And I have to ask myself, is that really how their parents are raising them? That when an adult says, stop playing ball, playing hockey with a tennis ball around my car, and they look at me, fuck you, and keep doing it anyway? That's what has happened to me. Who is teaching these children that it is fine to speak to an adult like that? And who's going to pay when that ball smashes through my car window? Who do I go to report that? Because, see, if I report that, then it gets around that I just hate children. No, see, I hate disrespectful children and the parents who raise them. I tell a child, get off that private property, that child better jump and run. Because I'm the adult, and I have a right to do that. I have a right to protect my own property. I have a right to protect my vehicle, and I have a right to protect my neighbor's property when I know she would want me to do so. And I called that neighbor, and I said to her, is it okay that these kids are climbing all over your porch? And she said, no, Paula, thank you for letting me know. I'll tell my son-in-law. He will come down and say something to them. This is the way America works today. And I got to tell you something else, people. You better start being careful whose space you choose to get into and pick your battles. This father, Mr. Deloach, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name. I apologize because I think it is such a tragedy that this poor innocent young woman lost her life and her children will now grow up without a mother because of her husband's big mouth and his arrogant behavior. And this lunatic who actually really overreacted. But that's the point. When you go up to a stranger, you better pick your battles because this husband and father, he didn't know this guy. And we know that in America today, there are a lot of people on medication. There's a lot of people with mental illness that are unstable. And there's also just a lot of people who have had a really bad day. And they really need a cigarette. And then this guy, this smoker never met before, gets in his face. And the guy lost his mind. Lost his mind. And he's going to lose his freedom. He's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. But this father of 6, man, I hope can he actually live with himself and say it was worth it? It takes 5 minutes to smoke a cigarette. So his kids see someone smoking a cigarette outside for 5 freaking minutes. Was it worth it to have his children taken to the ER and his beautiful pregnant wife dead? Was it worth it over something so ridiculous as someone smoking a legal cigarette in a legally designated smoking area? You have to ask yourself that question. It is terrible. And it's very sad. But we are an angry nation. In fact, yesterday, it was on the news that a car went through a train. The things were down, the lights were flashing. They're like, I'm not fucking waiting for this train. I need to get where I'm going. They went around it. Everyone in the car is dead. Several people on the train injured. Horrific. We are a nation of anger. Everything we see on the news is anger. The president makes us angry. The Democrats make us angry. The Republicans make us angry. Doctors and pharmaceutical companies make us angry. It's always anger. Electricians and city people, city codes make us angry. When all we want is some peace. And I'll tell you what, after a long, hard day of fighting the city or fighting with an electrician or fighting a medical company or a doctor's office, I need a cigarette, damn it. Now, I'm lucky. I'm not one of these people who lives in a place where they tell you can't even smoke in your own home. I can just walk anywhere in my house and light a cigarette and have a glass of wine and chill. But I'll tell you what, if I just came out of a traffic jam and I had a hard day at work, I stop at the 7-Eleven, I want a cigarette, you know what? I'm going to fucking have a cigarette. Some stranger, someone I've never met, thinks he's got the right to tell me to put that cigarette out because his children are watching me smoke? Again, I wouldn't get in my car and hit them. I would basically just tell him, call the police. I would say call the police. Because I'm not doing anything illegal. See if they will tell me I can't smoke here. The fact that some people, like this husband and father, think they have the right to tell anybody what to do because it makes them uncomfortable. They don't like it. I don't want my children seeing you smoke. Then move your children. Okay? Instead, this father made a decision, and he opened his big mouth, and unfortunately, and I do say this very honestly, unfortunately, he didn't have the balls to put his body where his mouth was. His pregnant wife did that. She risked her life to save her children, and now she's dead. And this man will have to live with that for the rest of his life, that his big mouth, his attitude about smoking cost his wife her life. I hope he thinks it was worth it. I hope that someday he does an interview. Some of his story has changed. He said that this man was purposely blowing smoke in his children's face. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I don't know any smoker who purposely blows smoke on children. I don't do that. Nobody I know would do that. But again, the story keeps changing. When it was first reported, as far as I know, the children were in the car. It was a cold day. The windows were up. Again, there are some people that don't even want their children to see a smoker. They want our money, but they don't want to see us. And I want to leave you with this. Think about if this father of 6, now this is my imagination, but think if there were 2 men holding hands and kissing in public, and this father of 6 doesn't like gay people. And he said, could you please stop doing that? I don't want my children to see you kissing another man and think it's cool. Think about how that one would have turned out. And if maybe this father of 6 would be now under arrest. Because you're not allowed to do that either. You can't tell 2 men to stop kissing in public. They're allowed to kiss in public. It's 2019. You don't want your kids to see that, move your kids. But think about that scenario and how different this story would play out. Smokers are human beings, everybody. We bleed red just like you do. We pay a lot more taxes than you non-smokers do in order to use our legal product. And yet you don't want to see us. You don't want us around your children. You don't want us on the beach with you or in the pavilion with you. You don't even want to live next door to us in some situations because the smoke seeps through the walls and we can smell it in our sleep. Bullshit. You don't want to be in a restaurant with us or at a bar with us or on a deck with us. But when you can't afford to take your kid to the doctor, you really want our money, don't you? Something to think about. Something else to think about. We live in an angry society. Pick your battles. If you're going to get in a stranger's face, you better be prepared for the consequences. They might be something that you had no idea could possibly happen until it does. And God bless those poor little 6 children who will grow up now without a mother over something that was so stupid. Because their father just couldn't live and let live. He had to get in this guy's face. So I am praying for those children. It's going to be very difficult. They're very young. And someday they will hear that their mother died because their father had a big mouth. And that she died protecting them. That's my show. I will be back with the Pajama Chronicles on Sunday. It's going to be called Friends Without Benefits. I hope you will tune in and enjoy. Anxious to hear your comments on this one. Political Paula, out.